Hello and welcome to the Elsanka Super show on Amaze TV. Our topic today is Sierra Leoneans making a difference in our community. And our guest today is one you can appropriately describe as belonging to the creme de la creme, and not only the Sierra Leonean community, but the British society as well. And that's because of the extraordinary contribution he makes to humanity. Someone you could also say may have achieved in his youth, but most people cannot achieve in a lifetime. Many would describe him as an absolutely inspirational individual and an exceptional talent. Having qualified with 3 A's at A level at the Ernest Bevan School in London, he proceeded to no less an institution than the highly globally acclaimed University of Cambridge to study medicine, and 5 years later he qualified as a medical practitioner. Not having been satisfied with his huge achievements, he realized that in order to achieve his lifelong ambition to be of even greater benefit to his community, he proceeded to further his education at the London School of Tropical Medicine, where he achieved an MSc qualification in public health. He has worked in hospitals in Cambridgeshire, London, and Hampshire, and progressed to the level of academic specialist registrar in respiratory medicine, a tier just before becoming a consultant, combining these with clinical and academic responsibilities. He's accomplished all this while being in his 30s. This is just a snippet of the outstanding achievements of this fascinating gentleman, who is the personification of modesty and humility. And that I can assure you of, because I've met him. If you think he's already a legend, then you ain't seen nothing yet. So sit back, relax, and watch the interview with this formidable and fascinating gentleman. It is at this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, that I would now ask you to join me in welcoming in grand style this extraordinary human being to the Amaze Studios. He's none other than Dr. Mohammed Kamara. Welcome to our studios, Dr. Ahmed. And thank you very much for coming, considering you're such a very busy man and you can take some time off that busy schedule to come and talk to us. Thank you very much for coming.
You're most welcome. It is a huge pleasure and an honor to be here. I love giving myself to my community. So I'm grateful to you for asking me to come here today.
Well, thank you very much for that. Now, this is going to be one of the interviews, the great interviews that you've actually done on television. And I'm very proud to be the person hosting that. You are definitely one of those people that many people look up to, and I really would like you to tell us a lot about this tonight. And one of the things I would like to find out, I know you grew up in an estate where there may be crimes and there is a lot of underachievement. But how did you take yourself from there and then catapulted yourself to the higher reaches of human endeavor? Would you like to tell us a bit about that?
Yes, I guess, estates have this stigma associated with them. I mean, I'd first of all like to say, look, I'm a very proud Sierra Leonean British. I'm proud of my Sierra Leonean roots, my Sierra Leonean upbringing, but I'm also grateful to all Britain has given to me. I describe myself as the skinny boy that came from Tengbe Town to London in 1992 when the Civil War broke. After navigating my way, hitchhiking from Bow to Freetown, and finding out that a plane ticket was waiting for me to come to the United Kingdom. Somehow, I got here and managed to navigate my way from a state comprehensive school, a very rough state comprehensive school in South London, to Cambridge, as you said. And when I look back at how I was able to achieve that, I think it was because I have a positive outlook on life. You see, when I came to England, I had to stay with strangers for the first year. And they weren't Sierra Leoneans, they were Nigerians. because my mom, you know, had a bedsit that wasn't big enough for me to live in with her. So I stayed there for a year, and then over a period of time, we found our way in council social housing. You know, I embraced the positives about living in the overcrowded environment. I didn't see it as a setback. You know, I knew that tomorrow will be better. I knew that there was something great at the end of the road. See, I had a goal. I'm not sure where I got that goal from, but I had an intuition that if I kept my focus and if I kept working hard, things would be better one day. And that is what I kept on doing.
Thank you very much for letting me know that. Now, the other thing perhaps you touched on, which really touches my heart a little bit, is the fact that you went through the war in Sierra Leone, you had to hitchhike your way to Freetown, and then was able eventually to get a plane ticket to come here. Can you tell us a little bit about how the war affected you?
Well, look, I mean, I was 11 years old at the time, and you know, the war had broken out, and I was at Bow School in my very first year. And as you know, Bow isn't very far from Liberia, right? Where, you know, a lot of the rebel fighting was going on at the time. But as a child, I was blissed. You know, say ignorance is bliss. I probably wasn't aware of the significance of what was going on. I came about having to hitchhike because at the end of the third term, I had actually blown all my money, all my transportation, and had no way of getting back. Of course, there was no, there was no mobile phone in those days. I wasn't aware that they had arranged for me to come to the United Kingdom. So the only way to get back to Freetown was to hitchhike. So I hitchhiked with a group of friends of mine. I think there were 3 of us at the back of those trucks that carry woods. Somewhere along the way, the driver actually got us to assist him with carrying some of this wood from the bushes to the truck. What we trusted him, you know, there's so much trust in elders back in Sierra Leone, and thankfully he got me to Freetown. Interestingly, as I got to Freetown, I found out that my elder sister Zainab had actually gone to Bow to get me because they were planning to get me on this flight to the United Kingdom. It was just by pure miracle that she managed to come back on time, worried to death because she couldn't find me in Bow, but to find me in Freetown instead, and that's how I got to Freetown and then came over here.
A really exciting story. Now let's look at the present now. You got your 3 A's and went to Cambridge. Now that was the time really when there were not so many people who were blacks who went to Cambridge or Oxford, but you find yourself there. How was life like there?
It's a very good question. I mean, I think they say when you have a goal, it's worthwhile having a goal that's much bigger than you. A goal that you probably don't even know how you're going to achieve it, but you believe that it is what you're destined for, and you start doing the work. You start asking the questions. I mean, when I decided to apply to go to Cambridge, my careers advisor at school really didn't know how to go about an Oxbridge application. They were very supportive. They knew all about UCAS, but there was a completely separate additional system that you had to go through when applying to Oxbridge. So, I went to the open days. From one open day, I managed to, form friendships with current students studying medicine at Cambridge who gave me lots of information. And there were ethnic minority groups, groups to encourage ethnic minority applications to Cambridge. I mean, before I started on the journey, I didn't know that. But I knew that I wanted to at least give it a go, to apply to Cambridge. And I just went for it. And as I knocked on one door, answers came. They say, as you knock, the door shall open. And that's what I kept on doing. And I think it is really important. Sometimes we want to do something, but we don't know how to get there. We might not know anyone who's done what we want to do, but that shouldn't stop us.
Right. I noticed from your profile that you've worked at a lot of hospitals in all over the country, from Hampshire to London and a number of other places, and you are also doing academic work with your clinical responsibilities, and at some stage you are quite close to becoming a consultant, and you studied for all that. Yeah. Now, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, my goal when I left university medical school was to become a physician, and I set about working my way towards becoming, a consultant. That is the pinnacle of becoming a physician. And I loved respiratory medicine, and so I set on a training path towards becoming a respiratory physician. But I wasn't satisfied with just being a clinician. I wanted to become an academic as well. So I wanted to be a doctor, to do the PhD, to be able to do research and find new things, to bring new knowledge to the clinical field, and then use that knowledge to treat patients. So that's the path that I set about, and I worked my way through the various hospitals that you mentioned, and eventually, in 2010, 2011, I got an offer to go and study for a PhD at a university in San Diego, California, and at that point we had our second child. At that point, my father wasn't too well. One of my younger sisters was also going through some difficult periods in her life. It just made me reflect. It gave me a bit of introspection on what I really wanted out of life. And I knew that, family was really, really important to me. I wanted to be there. And I extrapolated the feeling that I had towards my father, my sister, to my children, and the second newly born son. And I knew that I wanted to be there. And so I decided, after probably a period of weeks, but I decided and made a firm decision that the career in medicine that would enable me to carry on being a doctor, as well as spending the time that I would love to spend with my family, was going to be general practice. And so I decided to become a general practitioner at that stage.
I was actually going to talk about that after this, your answer, really. I mean, because becoming a general practitioner is not common with Sierra Leoneans here. So, and I would presume that you're the first Sierra Leonean to become a general practitioner. How did that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely sure if I'm the first. I'm aware of at least one other Sierra Leonean general. Well, look, the thing is, we're not plenty, okay? And that is something that I would love to see in my lifetime, to see increase across professions, not just medicine or general practice. It would be really lovely to see more Sierra Leoneans, in many other professions, so that our children will not see it as the uncommon thing to do. Okay, I always wanted to be an engineer because my father worked in telecommunications, and I can't remember when I made the decision to become a doctor, but quite recently, because of another project that I'm embarking on, quite recently I found a letter that I'd written to my late grandmother in the very first year, in 1992, when I came to the United Kingdom. It was a draft copy of that letter, and in that letter I'd stated, Grandma, I'm going to study, work hard to become a doctor so that I can look after you and all your health problems. So I knew at least at the age of 11, 12, I wanted to become a doctor. So it wasn't something that I went about talking about. I was never this top student. I was a very much an average student, but just started applying myself, as I went through the years, and realizing that I could, I had some potential in me, and eventually, I developed the confidence, I did the work experience, and I got the necessary GCSE grades to go on and do the relevant A-levels to go on and study medicine. So one thing I'd say, I'll go back to what I said earlier about having a goal. I think at the age of 11, 12, I had that thought. I didn't know how to achieve it. We didn't have any doctors in the family. But it must have done something to my subconscious mind. And that may be something for another discussion and another time. But you see, when you plant a thought in your mind, it does something to you that makes you consistently work towards achieving it. And I think that's probably what happened.
Oh, thank you very much. Would you then agree that you would be a perfect example of hard work beating talent when talent doesn't work hard?
I like that. You see, I think, I believe hard work pays. I also believe that we're all capable of achieving anything that we set our mind to achieve. I think, no one can achieve beyond their thoughts. If you think you cannot go on to college or A-levels, you're absolutely right. If you think it, you cannot go to college or A-levels. But if you think you can go to university, if you think you can go and become a top footballer, or Ronaldo, or Messi, if you think you can become a top musician, if you think you can become a doctor, as in my case, then you're absolutely right. You can become a doctor.
This for me is actually very sensational, and we will say a lot about this later. But first, let's now go to our first musical interlude, and this one is by King Aliu, and it's one of my favorite tracks. It's called Imagine.
Imagine a day na me farm the work and let's call me phone. Imagine a day na streets they waka, Obama invites me. Imagine a beautiful salon artist for we Grammy. Imagine for make salon people and choose me from be presidents. Imagine I get money past Bill Gates. Imagine a heaven na me the open gates. Imagine a me then you congratulate. One number one, I say na me then the rest. Imagine me I get money go. Imagine me I be the champion for Kofu. Imagine.
Welcome back. This is the Elsanka Super Show, and my guest tonight, as you may well know, is Dr. Ahmed Kamara, GP. Now, what I want to focus on now, Dr. Kamara, is your charity work. I noticed that most of the charity events that I do in this country, and that is being host for them, you're always there. And you're not only there just as somebody who's not doing anything, but actually promoting it and motivating people to donate funds in order to enhance the work of that charity group. Now, I know you have set up a charity yourself, which is actually helping a lot of people, not only in London, but also in Sierra Leone. Would you like to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, you see, Tony Robbins, who arguably today is one of the leading success coaches in the world, says the secret to living is giving. And I truly believe that we cannot be truly happy in ourselves without giving. And that is giving without expecting to receive anything at all. Now, I love my country, Sierra Leone. Well, look, no one can do everything. So it's amazing that there are so many charitable initiatives helping so many different groups of people in Sierra Leone. So the list that I can do, I feel, and I think this is probably should apply to all of us, the list that I can do is to go and support. To go and support a good cause. If my presence at an event, gives an individual or an organization some moral support, then that's great. It gets them towards their goal. If my ticket fee or a donation that I might make or encouraging others to donate helps them to get there, then it's great. There's so many ways to give. It doesn't all have to come from my pocket. No one has a bottomless pocket. Well, you can give by sharing knowledge. You can give by giving your time. You can give by sharing expertise. And that is why I personally try as much as I can to attend these charity events.
Okay. Maybe you'd like to tell us also a little bit about the charity organization you yourself set up with other people, with the help of other people, which actually goes also to Sierra Leone to do a lot of work with them. Can you tell us about that? I think it's called KICT, isn't it?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, KICT. Now, I mean, as you know, KICT stands for chronic kidney disease. It is actually an idea that germinated from a seed of thought, I would say, of one of my wife's closest friends, Fatih Kamara, who happens to be a renal nurse. She approached me with this idea several years before we actually got it going. But when the time was right, I fully embraced it. And I did because, you see, chronic kidney disease and its main risk factors, mainly diabetes, hypertension, and other associated renal diseases in men, in particular prostate disease. These are all things that are significantly more prevalent amongst Afro-Caribbeans. And so it just made so much sense. I mean, I see patients in clinic who are in the United Kingdom with this wonderful NHS health service who do not fully utilize it. And that is in part because they don't have the knowledge, or perhaps they haven't been empowered to do what is required to improve their health. And so, we're of course very grateful to you and people like Sud Come for helping us host it every year. We try and give the knowledge out freely to members of the public, mainly Sierra Leoneans, but anyone can attend. And last year we started taking that knowledge to Sierra Leone, because there are equally so many people out there who do not even have access to a good quality healthcare service. And I say to people, look, the best treatment, the best medication, it's not having to need one at all. So if there's something that you can do to prevent a particular illness from developing, or if it's developed to help control it much better, then why not do it by changing your behavior? We see habits are difficult to change.
I also noticed that you get an array of doctors, different specialists in different fields to come and talk to people, and it's almost always free of charge. I was wondering really, how do you raise your money when everything, the entrance, like last year when we were there, that was free of charge?
Yeah.
How do you get those specialists to come in and give their speciality and the talk they give to people, all that free of charge? How do you do that?
Well, I think it's, as I say, it's by the grace of God. You see, when you have an idea, there are likely to be other people who have similar ideas out there, who are in tune with your idea. And so if you're a giving person, you're likely to find others who equally want to give. And so we put our seed, our questions out there. I mean, of course, I try and use my network of, NHS colleagues that I know. And I just simply ask the question, can you come and help? And so far, we've been quite fortunate. And there are always, more than the number of people that we need to come and speak to us. We're just so fortunate.
Well, thank you very much. Now, the next thing that I know you for is being a motivational speaker, because I know you've gone to my own school and motivated children there to pursue medicine, and you've gone to also your former school to motivate children there. You know what I want you to do? I want you to look into that camera there. There'll be parents sitting with their children watching this show tonight, and I'm sure they will want you to motivate them. Would you look into that camera and talk directly to them for me, please?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is absolutely important for anyone who's managed to excel beyond their metaphorical glass ceiling. In my case, I've gone on to become a GP, a doctor, and there are many others in different professions who've been able to achieve equal excellence. It is absolutely important, and I think it should be our duty to come back to our communities and try to share our experience, try to inspire those coming after us to have that belief that they can achieve. Because, look, without a goal, you cannot go anywhere. Just imagine having a ship that has no destination, aimlessly wandering on the ocean. It will go nowhere. It may even just capsize. But people need to have the belief that they can achieve a goal that is way beyond them. And so if they see someone like me who has attended a state comprehensive school, if they see someone like me who perhaps they associate with me because I am an ethnic minority, you know, if a Sierra Leonean kid sees me and associates with me even more because I'm a Sierra Leonean who has achieved what they may have thought was never possible for them, then it gives them that belief. And if they can generate that belief within themselves, then absolutely they can achieve whatever it is that they want. And you have to not worry about how you're going to get there. You know, the how is not your problem. You've just got to want that ambition. Because as soon as that is set in your mind, then you can start taking steps. You can start taking necessary actions. You can start, nowadays we have the internet. You have Dr. Google, I say, or Mr. Google. You can ask the right questions to get you to where you want to go to. And that is what I try and do with motivational speeches. You know, my biggest regret is actually not being able to fit in many more of those, as many as I would like to do. And that's something that I hope to ramp up over the next year. I'm also working on setting up a sort of inner circle mastermind, group where I can personally mentor some of these students, teach them how to set goals and how to work towards achieving those goals. Because the more of those people that we have, the better it will be for society in general.
What I can say right to that camera there, parents, children, if you're sitting there watching this program, understand one thing. Dr. Ahmed Kamara is one of the most ambitious people I have met. So what you need is ambition, but more importantly, Dr. Ahmed is actually a perfect example of humility. Absolutely humble in spite of being an absolutely great talent. So if you consider that, if you're ambitious, talented, but more importantly, you're committed to what you're doing, you will definitely be able to achieve as much as Dr. Ahmed has done. We'll now go on to another musical interlude. Then we'll come back and talk to Dr. Ahmed again. This time, the music is Money Day Na Fire by Succulent.
Succulent? Baby, oh, baby, oh, oh, Mr. Jacob, baby, love it to my dear, oh, Mr. Dear. Baby, no worry, oh, money they are for fire. Baby, no worry, oh, money they are for fire. Oh, Mr. Jacob, baby, my life name me, love it to my dear, oh, Mr. Dear. Baby, no worry, oh, money they are for fire.
Welcome back. You're watching the Elsanka Super Show on Amaze TV, and my guest today is none other than Dr. Ahmed Kamara, GP. Now, let's come to a few exciting things right now, Dr. Kamara. I hear that when you were at school, you were a good footballer, playing matches which you won, and also winning a lot of accolades for your school. Would you like to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I guess football is one of those universal sports that just transcends, all sorts of barriers. And as a young boy in Sierra Leone, I enjoyed playing football. In fact, I used to play with my bare foot. When I came to England, I enrolled and successfully got onto the first 11 at year 7, Form 1. And I remember going into tackles not wearing shin pads because I wasn't used to shin pads. And those who wore shin pads always came off worse than me. You know, that's how strong my legs were. And I give credit to the training that I had as a young boy in Sierra Leone. What I really enjoyed playing football, and I excelled at the position of defender for my school, and that's a position I played throughout. I used to describe myself as a Marcel Desailly type of defender. So if the ball goes, the man mustn't go. If the man goes, the ball must stay. So that's my story with football.
Okay. Now, the other thing perhaps I would ask you is, being such a very good footballer and so having such a passion for football when you were young, would you have swapped your position now as a medical practitioner for football? Thinking of it nowadays?
It's a very good question, because I mean, when you look at what footballers earn in terms of salary, it's mouth-watering. Now, I mean, when I reflect back to those days, there were friends of mine who were scouted by the likes of Crystal Palace and Arsenal. Even some of them were very good. I mean, unfortunately, the support mechanism, it seems, wasn't really there, as you have academies now.
Yeah.
Some of them were just left to the wayside after an unfortunate injury. So with the way things were then, and also with the fact that, my parents' generation, they weren't so supportive of children going into sports back in those days, I probably would have just taken the same path. But in the current climate, it's really tempting. I mean, with a good academy, I think, I could have played football to a good position and at the same time study hard to become a doctor. Have both. Why not?
And really, when you talk about how you went to the tackles and the people who were wearing shin pads came up worse, it gives me the impression that he must have been a really heavy tackler. But when you talk about Marcel Desailly, I think of Chelsea. Is that's not your team at the moment, is it?
No, it's never been my team.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it's funny, football. You have admiration for certain players, but then you have your club that you are passionate towards. And for me, it's always been Liverpool since I've been in the UK. I supported, Eastern Lions back in Sierra Leone. I was a little boy at the time, but that's the team I supported. And I always knew that I was going to support a team that wore red, because Eastern Lions wore red in Freetown. And of course, you've got Arsenal in London, and you've got the other club in the North, Manchester United, who were doing so well and have done so well over the last 20 years. But I was attracted to Liverpool because of John Barnes and Bruce Grobbelaar, the charismatic, sometimes crazy goalkeeper. And I stuck with it. And I think that is really important. I know we're talking about football, but that is really important when you're trying to work towards an achievement. You might have ups and downs, you might have obstacles, and for Liverpool, we've gone over 20 years without winning the Premier League. Heartache, but I stuck with it. And now we're doing very well. We won the Champions League this year. After 2005, and I'm glad I stuck with it.
And there is a possibility you are going to be winning the title this year.
There's a very good chance.
And even going on to get the treble or the double.
It's
a good possibility, isn't it?
I think we've just got to keep going and aim for everything that we're still capable of winning at this stage.
And talking about sports, I also noticed that you were captain of the judo team at Cambridge. And that perhaps comes from your tackling as well. How did you enjoy that? And how did that actually come about?
Yeah, I mean, I loved judo. Actually, during secondary school, I excelled more at judo than football. I got involved in judo because I thought it was karate. They were all wearing the white gi. And I was a huge fan in those days of Jackie Chan. But I found out that there was no punching or kicking in judo, and it was all grappling. But I absolutely loved it. N.S. Bevin had a very good judo coach at the time, and we had a good group of us that did absolutely fantastically well, winning competitions nationally. And when I got to GCSEs and A-levels, I purposefully decided to cut back on my sporting engagement, and judo suffered. And it was a decision that I had to make, and I took that path. But it was such a relief when I got to Cambridge to realize that Cambridge had, this place of great intellect, to find out that they had an active judo club. And so I threw myself at it. There's, wherever you go to university, you can't get away from studying. And at Cambridge, it was everywhere, on the way to lectures, from lectures, on the grass, so many different libraries. And it was such a release from the medical laboratories and the libraries to just go and have fun at the judo club. And with great humility, I must say, I announced myself with a huge bang at Cambridge Judo Club, because the very first competition that Cambridge had with Oxford, I defeated the Oxford captain. Wow. With a throw call you might not know, Uchimata, throwing the captain for Ippon. Now, in judo, Ippon is the equivalent to a knockout blow in boxing.
Yes, I think in the Olympics I've studied that from there.
It was just so amazing and fantastic, and I was all over the newspapers, the local newspapers at Cambridge, and I went on to also become British University's judo champion.
Wow.
And you see, in Cambridge, Oxford competitions are fiercely competitive, and people will probably know this from the annual boat race. Yeah. And people who excel are awarded a sporting blue. Okay, that is a huge, a badge of honor to achieve. When I went to Cambridge, judo was a half blue spot, so not a full blue spot, not like rugby or rowing. So we worked hard, won lots of competitions nationally, winning the Oxbridge competition several times. And by the time I left, together with the achievements of the group of guys that were on the team, we managed to elevate judo from a half blue spot to a full blue spot. And I went on to, as you mentioned, captain the judo club and be president of the judo club. It was amazing.
This is a tricky question I'm going to ask you. I know you're a perfect gentleman. Perhaps you might not need this question at all. But in your judo exploits, have you ever needed it for anything other than sports? Maybe self-defense or something?
I'll tell you what, anyone who's done any form of martial arts, one thing you would always say is that martial arts teaches you self-discipline. It teaches you to be in control of yourself and gives you that self-confidence. The intention is never to use it outside of the, of the ring. But it gives you that confidence that even those who might not know that you do judo, they see that confidence in you and know not to come close to you.
Would you have had the likelihood of using it if perhaps somebody were finding themselves in a tricky situation and you had to go and help?
Well, look, it's absolutely in self-defense. And one thing I've learned, in my time as a doctor as well is, I worked in a psychiatric ward, and sometimes, once upon a time, when patients are not well with acute mental illness, they can be very difficult to manage, very aggressive. And trying to be aggressive in return escalates the situation. So what that taught me, and what doing judo taught me, was you always achieve a lot more by talking to people and calming them down. Now, I've got one secret for you. This is probably news to you. During my time at Cambridge, I was a bouncer for a period of time at a nightclub, and you have to be incredibly disciplined within yourself, to get along with people who were drunk and had fun, enjoying themselves, and that's what self-discipline teaches you.
Now, I know for sure from my experience with you that you're a very selfless person, very charitable as well. I'm sure there are many people out there who are unsung heroes whom you would want to identify, and maybe we will celebrate here and perhaps dedicate a record to. Anybody there that you want to celebrate here today?
Wow. I mean, as you know, for someone who engages in so many different activities, there are many people that I could name here tonight. But I believe that no one gets to where they are without the help of others. And I truly mean this. I owe everything that I've achieved, and I don't see it as a big achievement at all, because there's so many more things that I want to do. But I owe everything that I've achieved to every single person who has helped me to get to where I am, whether deliberately, whether accidentally, whether knowingly or unknowingly. I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's helped me. But I'll also mention a group of individuals. Being a healthcare professional who's worked here and experienced what working in Sierra Leone is like, I'd like to give a massive shout out to all the healthcare professionals in Sierra Leone who work in the difficult, challenging circumstances that they do, and especially those who lost their lives during the Ebola crisis.
Right, I think we have an opportunity of dedicating a record to them, one Sierra Leonean piece of music. Would you like to do that to them, please? Just let them know that you're dedicating this one.
Well, I hope you'll appreciate this. This is a song by Famous, and it's called Throw Away.
Listen something to the story, man, a long thing. No mention nothing, cause I want to say the right thing. I see a beauty queen, she pass right by me. The way she look at me, she want for tell me something. Bring her closer, make her hear what she wants to clear. Take them slowly, girl, you too fine, you go kill me. See, you too fine like thing to eat, girl. It's soft like thing to sleep on, but love no me.
Welcome back, and you're watching the Elsanka Super Show on Amaze TV, and my guest today again is Dr. Ahmed. Doctor, you seem to be a well-driven man, self-motivated. You seem to be going on and on. I mean, in spite of the fact that you're such a busy person, I can see you in almost every place. What exactly is the motivation behind this?
It's a good question. I mean, I think I have an insatiable appetite to keep growing. See, they say what doesn't grow dies. And so I work on myself every single day. I work on my mindset. I work on my goals. I set myself new goals. And I make sure that I take daily actions, weekly actions, monthly actions towards achieving those goals. And the thing with setting yourself goals is you get there and you realize that there's so much more that you can do. There are so many more people that you can help. And if you stop growing, if you stop wanting to get better, wanting to help more people, I think then life is not worth living. We all have what drives us, and whatever it is, I think you've got to be willing to keep learning. There's something new that you can learn all the time. And in fact, I'm working on a few things at the moment. Perhaps I may get a chance to tell you about it. One of them is a book. And when it's completed one fine day, I would love to come and talk to you about that.
That would be great. I think this next dedication is going to be mine. I know who I'm going to dedicate this one to. If you're watching this, this is going to be a dedication to you and the children. You know why? Because you've been such a dedicated wife, and more importantly, so patient. When this gentleman is going through all his studies, sitting there late in the night, you're looking after the children, you really have done absolutely brilliant. That's to you, Sina Kamara, wife of Dr. Kamara. So this is a dedication, and the record that I'm going to ask you is one by DJ Lulu.
Some them
you're actually watching the Elsanka Super Show on Amaze TV. Dr. Kamara, do you have one final word for our viewers?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think, you see, the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is very, very simple. There is no magic to it. Successful people like to do the things that unsuccessful people don't like to do. And so you've just got to be willing to do whatever it takes. You've got to be a warrior over yourself. You've got to be able to give yourself a command to do things and then go and do it. They say procrastination is the poison of success. So when you have an idea, when you have a goal, and you decide that it takes X, Y, and Z to achieve that goal, just tell yourself to go out there and do it. And you'll achieve all your life's dreams.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. Kamara, this has been a very delightful interview for me. And it's been very inspirational, I'm sure, for our viewers. Would you like to say goodbye to them now?
Goodbye, and I wish you all the success in life.
So to all our viewers, thank you very much for watching the Elsanka Super Show on Amaze TV. Join me again next week at the same time and same place. This is yours truly, Mohammed Dabo, wishing you a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.